Hello and welcome, or welcome back if you're a returning viewer to the channel. WB here, and in this video what I want to do is show you how you can leverage Microsoft Intune to create account protection policies for your devices. If you like what you see on the channel, be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell so that you're aware of all the new episodes. Remember, like, share, comments are always welcome, and check out that description below for the link to our community Discord server so that you and I can continue this discussion. All right, everybody, let's dive in. All right, everybody, here we are on my Windows desktop, and if we want to deploy an account protection policy in Microsoft Intune, we're going to navigate from the Intune Admin Center. We're going to navigate to Endpoint Security here, and then in Endpoint Security, we're going to scroll down here, about third up from the bottom under Manage. Here, if we scroll down, you're going to see Account Protection. We can select Account Protection here, and we can choose Create Policy. Now from here we get our pop-out blades, and our pop-out blade allows us to select Windows, almost like having a choice. If you've seen some of the other videos where we've deployed LAPs and controlled local group membership, check out those videos as well too, because that's where we can do these two different tasks. We're going to select Account Protection Policy, and you can see here that it allows us to protect user credentials. We can use things like Windows Hello for Business and Credential Guard. All right, we're going to choose Create. We start to walk through our basic wizard here. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to pick on my East US devices like I do. So maybe I call this my East US, what do we want to call this? ACC, I'm just going to call it ACC Protect. And I'm going to call this 01. Remember, your naming convention needs to make sense to you. Sometimes, most of the time, mine does to me, but, you know, sometimes there isn't a method to the madness. Then we're going to go ahead and choose Next. All right, and then we get a variety of different configuration settings. Now, pay attention to when you configure these, because I want you to notice that you have two different scopes. You have the device scope, and then if we scroll down, you have the user scope, right? Now, one of the things you're going to see here is if you want to know more about each one of these individual settings, and you're maybe, say, studying for the MD 102 exam, or maybe you're in endpoint administration for your company, right? You can always hover over these, and when you hover over them, just like in group policy where you get explanations in your GPO settings, they really have given you almost the same type of environment here where you can find out what is the difference between not configured, configured, or enabled, right, and disabled, right? So I want you to keep that in mind too. So for instance, notice the default is false here. Maybe you want to formally define these. Do we want to allow PIN recovery? Do we want expirations? If we want expirations, how long do we want to set that expiration, right? The age of the password's another way that you can think of that. Do we want to enable PIN history, right? We could say maybe 10 pins. Do we want to allow lowercase? Again, you can see some of these, I guess it kind of goes without saying, so I'll say it anyways, that default is you could leave it not configured and it would go to the defaults. But if you want to make sure that you're controlling this, you can do that. So maybe minimum pin length, we put 5. Do we want to allow special characters? I'm not going to require them, right? But I am going to allow these for a little bit more complexity. Do you want a TPM? Now, it doesn't really say TPM here, but a security device, and that's why I want you to always use these little thought bubbles, right? Or exclamation points, right? This is where we can utilize that TPM. Right, and the question is, do we want to require that, right? And maybe I say, yes, you're going to have to use a TPM. Now, I also want you to keep in mind that when we're talking about Windows 11, right, we have to have the TPM 2.0 standard. So we know that our devices have TPMs in them, right? They're required to have TPMs. It's not like it was in earlier editions of Windows that you had to have the TPM if you wanted to be able to enable BitLocker. If you didn't have the TPM, you couldn't install BitLocker. And it's not that way with Windows 11. You will have a TPM on Windows 11 because it is required for the installation. Do we want to use Windows Hello for Business, right? And again, you can see the default is true here. Now, we can do the same thing on the user side as well. Again, depending on how you scope your settings. So maybe I do 30 days, expiration here, pin history. Maybe I do kind of like the same thing that I did for the device size. Maybe I do maximum pin length 5. Special characters, I'm going to go ahead and allow. I'll choose the defaults here, allow. And then security device, maybe be the user here. I don't put the TPM, right? But we enable Windows Hello for Business, right? Oh, and by the way, Windows Hello for Business does have to be enabled inside of your Entra ID. The great thing is it's really just a check mark and a checkbox. Check out our video for implementing Windows Hello for Business. Again, very easy setting to turn on. And then the next thing, we'll choose next, and we get our scope tags here. I'm just going to leave the default here. And then we get our assignments. And our assignments, this allows us to apply this to our various devices. I'm going to choose Windows devices in this case. Notice that you could include or exclude. And if you're doing profile targeting and you have an assignment filter in your tenant, you can even further scope this down. So for instance, I have an assignment filter. Let me back out of here. Sorry about that. And like I said, when you're targeting in other videos that I've done, right? The platform's smart enough to know that you have assignment filters for different platforms to either include it or not include the filter based on the platform that you're using. So I have Windows filters, so it knows that those assignment filters are there, and I could further refine and scope this even, again, more granularly to a subset of devices within Windows devices, right? So we'll do some profile targeting there too, because I always talk about it and might as well show it to you. And what I mean by that, as far as the interface being smart enough here, is that if I was creating an iOS based policy, if I was creating an Android-based policy and I got to the assignments and those filters, if I only have Windows filters, which currently I only have Windows filters, in those iOS and Android policies, they will not show any assignment filter. It'll look as I have none, right? Because though the Windows filters that I have don't apply to those platforms. So that's kind of what I mean when I say it's nice, because it's smart enough to know not to give you filters that don't apply to the platform for the policies that you're creating. And speaking of creating, this is where we get our review summary, kind of a collapse summary here, and we can review our settings right prior to moving on and creating the policy. Keep in mind that you can modify this after the fact too once you save. So if you have to, as part of any management process, you might have to modify the policy later as organizational policies change, right? So I kind of did that, so used to being in the interface, I kind of did that a little bit too fast. Let me slow down here a little bit, and you can see the policy here has now shown up, and we can select it. And then this is where we get our device and user check-in status. We can view a report. We also get the ability to do device assignment status, and then you can also do a per setting status based on the settings that are available in the policy. But you can see here, notice that it says could take up to 20 minutes to be available in this report, which I'm okay with that because we just deployed it. Now, scrolling down, you'll also see that, like I was mentioning, you can modify the properties after the fact, right? So maybe as part of management, I decide that, no, we want to include all of the Windows devices in that group, right? We can come over here, right, and we can choose that little hyperlink on the filter, choose next. We can remove the filter. Now, we have to be careful. Remember to save this after you're done. And then when we view this now, we can see that that filter is removed, right? So not only can you deploy your account protection policies inside of Microsoft Intune, show you how to manage them after the fact as well. As always, I ask if you like what you see on the channel, be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, like, share, comments are always welcome, and check out that description for a link to our community Discord server so that we can continue this discussion after the video ends. Thank you so much for watching.